Who do I have making it out of wildcards? I've got making out of wildcard. Okay, that's actually a good topic to talk about, because most likely a lot of people don't really understand the entire circuit system plus wildcard plus world's auto bid spots. But now it will most likely make sense to everybody because we've got everything confirmed. So let me pull that up on the stream and we can talk about wildcard first, just a second, because that's a really good question. And now is the perfect time to get stuck into that kind of discussion as well. So, World Championship. Where's the wildcard? Here is wildcard. Will be these teams. Now, if you're asking why will it be these teams, that's because these are the three teams, the top three teams here, V1, Space Station, and Optic, are the teams that finished off the entire season ranked 4, 5, and 6 in North America. So they get the wildcard spots for North America. The next three teams, Dig, Carmine Corp, Semper, are the teams ranked 4, 5, and 6 from EU. Renegades and Pioneers got the two OCE spots. The Club and Secret get the SAM spots. Gaming Gladiators and Tokyo Verde get the Apex South and North spot respectively. And then Veloce, that's actually not to be confused with the former EU team. Veloce, ON Esports get the MENA spots, and Bravado, Orlando get the Sub-Saharan Africa spots. Now the reason why it's these teams in particular is because 3 teams from Europe, 3 teams from North America, 1 team from South America, and 1 team from Middle East directly qualified. So if you don't see your favorite team here, don't panic, they're probably already in the main event. If you scroll down, wait, is this... Oh, the overview shows the wildcard as well. So if you want to see group stage, it's not even been filled in. Well, those teams are Moist, G2, I think FaZe, BDS, Falcons, NRG, Endpoint, and Furia, if I'm not mistaken. Oh yeah, it's right here. I'm completely blind. I think I got them all right though. It's right literally next to what I'm talking about. Wow. Was Moist just really better than Falcons, or was Falcons nervous? Well, Moist were definitely the better team. There's no denying that. But, you know, outside of the last matchup being a 4-0, we had 2 overtimes in a row on Aquadome and DFH Stadium. So, you know, those are 2 games that were very, very close right in the middle of the series. I think after losing 2 overtimes in a row, Falcons' mentality was completely chalked and they lost the last game pretty comfortably. But up until the second overtime loss in a row, they looked pretty good. I mean, this entire series, both Falcons and Moist looked really, really good. Great match for each other. You know, had multiple overtimes. Game number 7 of the first series went 1-0 Moist, 2-1 Falcons, 2-1 or 3-2 Moist. So that went back and forth. First matchup after the bracket reset, Moist were insane. They just they came out hot. I think that's expected after such a series like this, like a bracket reset. But Falcons actually came back really well. They rallied, went overtime. I think they called timeout, went overtime again. So, you know, if they had just done a little bit more in those 2 games there, we could have had a close series. I still think Moist are winning though, but I think the series would have been closer. Well, I mean, literally, it would have literally been closer. So, you're down to play Khaled. I think I've got Khaled Luis coming up next. Moxie, is this now the greatest lower bracket run? I mean, for me, yes, because the quality of competition is just insane these days. I mean, every single series is just a killer team that they're up against. I mean, just look at the teams, for goodness sake. Just look at the teams that Moist beat to win. That is just simply a more impressive run than Cloud9's run in Season 6 for me. You know, no disrespect to the Season 6 teams, but they just weren't. Going into the event, a lot of those teams that Cloud9 beat were not in the conversation to win at all. Whereas, coming into this event, Team Liquid, SSG, version 1, Falcons are all being like talked about as teams who could win this. They're all contenders. Even Carmine Corp, you know, there's just so many contenders these days. I mean, Furia, like literally, like 10 of the teams in this event are being called contenders to win, and that's just the way that Rocket League is now. You know, there's a lot more regional parity. I think that every NA team except Optic. Honestly, every EU team, as well as Furia and Falcons, were being called contenders going into this event. Whereas Season 6, it's pretty much just Dignitas, NRG, Cloud9, maybe Weedham Girls. I don't know if Weedham Girls really had that much respect on their name at that point, though. They kind of like popped off to make winter final, and then immediately after they won E-League. But if you look, Season 6 EU endpoint wasn't before LAN. I mean, they actually had a decent Regional 3, so some people were calling them like a contender. I mean, there's your regular season for EU. It was just like Dignitas, and then the other contenders were probably NRG and Cloud9, because NRG had a... didn't they win the playoff? Yeah, NRG won the playoffs, and then Cloud9 G2 won the league, but G2 always seemed to struggle at RLCS LAN, so nobody really thought that they... I mean, Cloud9 had literally beaten Dignitas in a previous LAN final. I don't know. I just wasn't as... looking back, people are like, how did Cloud9 beat the Dynasty Dignitas? But for me, who knew about the Dignitas internal issues, I was more thinking along the lines of, how did that Dignitas team last so long? How did they keep... I don't know how they kept winning events with the internal issues they had. Personally. But to go back to the previous question, because I didn't answer it. Who do I think is making it out of wildcard? So, what was the internal issues? I mean, K-Dop left immediately after... Not immediately, but yeah, like 2 months after they lost, he leaves. Like, you don't leave the most successful team of all time after one second place finish, unless something's going wrong. I mean, that should be fairly obvious. It was kind of ridiculous that they kept... I don't know how they were so successful. Like, it kind of... I think one of the things it shows is that you don't need to have... and they weren't the only team, by the way, who did this. There's like a ton of teams in Rocket League history who were not like the best friends outside of the game. But they still had a ton of success together, because although it does help, I think, to be friends outside of the game, you don't need to be friends outside the game to be successful in Rocket League or any esport, or even as any sport for that matter. You don't need to be friends outside the game. At the end of the day, you're colleagues, So these days with the whole have fun meta, it might be more helpful, but back then I don't think it was that big of a deal. At least from what I could see. I knew about a lot of teams who were having a lot of success and they did not they did not like each other. It's still true to this day. I mean, there's some teams who just don't really hang out in person. They're not friends, but they do well. Just different kind of teams. Some teams like treat it as work and their teammates are colleagues. Some teams treat it as fun and their teammates are their mates. So it worked. You just gotta find a team that works for you. End of the day. So okay, I'm thinking about who my top 8 to make it out wildcard are, by the way. That's why I've not said it yet. But who's making it out wildcard? I think V1 and Space Station both make it out. That should be fairly obvious. I think Dignitas make it out. I think Karming Corp make it out. That's 4 teams. I think Veloce and O1 Esports both make it out. And I think Team Secret make it out. And Pioneers. So I'm going to give Secret, Pioneers, O1 and Veloce the shout over Optic and Semper. It's really tough though. I mean, Optic's pretty close for me. Their last their run was pretty decent through spring. They did beat Secret to do that. In fact, you know what? No. I take it back. No, it's in Dallas. No, it's in Dallas. So I think I'm going to say all the NA teams make it out. Not because I think it'll matter that the crowd is for them or anything, but because they won't have to travel as far. So I'll say I think these 3 make it out. All 5 of them make it out. Carmine Dig, Optic, Space Station V1. I think Veloce definitely make it out. I think Pioneers should make it out. They look pretty good on LAN right now. And the last one is tough. You're looking at Semper Renegades, Secret Club. I'll give a shout to Team Secret, although honestly the club looked pretty good recently as well. The club, if anybody's not familiar with them, is not a completely new team to international LANs. Regional number 3 for the spring split for the South American event. the club beat Furia in the upper final before getting double 4-3'd with a whole host of overtime. So, you know, if they're doing this against Furia, they're clearly a very good team. Funny thing about this last game, though, by the way. So, in this overtime, Game 7 of the initial Furia versus the club matchup, I think it was Card for Furia scored the winning goal in overtime, and then he broke his controller celebrating, and then only after he'd broken his controller did the goal get cancelled, because one of the club players had actually disconnected while Card scored, so they had to replay the goal, and then the club won because, well, I mean, they might have won anyway, but partially because Card had a broken controller, so he just lost. I'm dead serious. So Card, he thought he'd scored the winning goal, if I'm not mistaken, broke his controller celebrating. If you're saying how was it broken, you should have seen Card celebrating beating NRG and Endpoint in the winter major when he just absolutely yeeted his headset at the desk after winning. Like, this guy likes to throw stuff around when he wins. Oh, was it KV1, not Card? You're joking. It was KV1. Oh, I'm sorry, I've got the story wrong. Oh no. Wait, was it not in this series then? Was it this one? Was it this one? Was it the first? Oh, that's even worse. Was it this one here? Oh no. Oh, my memory's not serving me. It was upper final. Wait, then they won anyway? Oh, it's not so bad if they won anyway. Makes total sense if it's KV1. I mean, they won though, so if they won, then I thought it was upper final. I heard it was Card. I heard it was Furia won, then they smashed their controller by mistake. Oh, KV1 DC'd. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, KV1 DC'd. So the goal was cancelled because KV1 was disconnected, but then Card's controller couldn't be unbroken, so unlucky Furia. Yeah, the club has Stromic. He's making a comeback from the fall major. And then you got Lost and KV1, who are actually a sick team, to be fair. But so are Secret. Secret are really good too. Man. I mean, the club did beat Secret. Maybe I say the club. Shall I just go full ones main bias? Shall I just say the club make it out of top 8? I beat them 2 events in a row. Although Secret 4-0'd them in the upper bracket. I mean, it's a pretty nuts team. It's a pretty nutty team. Lost to Stromic and KV1. That's a fun prediction. It's definitely a fun prediction to say that they're going to go through. And you know me, I love my fun predictions. V1, SSG. Yeah, let's say, okay, forget Optic. That's a boring prediction. They don't have to travel far, but dead prediction. We're removing them. Let's say V1, Space Station, Dig, Carmine Corp, Pioneers, the club, Veloce, and O1 Esports. I'm going to put O1 Esports back in instead of Optic, because Optic's a dead prediction. That's boring. If you're not familiar with O1 Esports or Veloce, let me tell you about them. O1 Esports is Zizonix, AMS, and Mawson. They're the number 3 team in MENA for the whole season. Even though in the spring split, I think they finished off like number 5 or something. I'll take a look in a second. But Veloce is Twiz, SMW, and Senzo. So you're all going to know who Senzo is. Twiz, SMW have teamed together for a long, long time. I think DNP means did not play, because for this event they played with their substitute Impressive instead, and they still came 3rd. So not bad. Let's go MENA rankings. Yeah, O1 Esports used to be called the Ultimates. They're from Middle East. So for spring, yeah, O1 Esports were actually number 6 in the spring. Behind Anka, Kings, Veloce, Cola, and Falcons. But these are all very good teams. I think Scythes are an excellent team as well. They came second to Falcons many times in the winter split. And you've also got F16, the new Roas Caliers team, Roas Caliers Basel. So Middle East is looking pretty stacked for next season. It's looking like there might be like 8 competitive teams. With F16 potentially challenging Falcons. How about I rate Cola next season? We'll have to wait and see, but there's definitely going to be a roster shuffle in the Middle East. Definitely going to be a roster shuffle. Yeah, anyway, that was a good question. Dwelled on it for quite some time. You know, a lot of people are saying that, you know, they'd rather watch Cola play, they'd rather watch Team Liquid play than teams who qualified for their entire season's performance. But the entire point, like the whole point about doing a circuit is to make sure that teams don't just, you know, play well for one split and then go to Worlds, even if they're not actually consistently good over a long period of time. The more recent majors are weighted more heavily, and maybe if, you know, maybe if you really want to take it to the next level, you could make spring split worth double the points or something off the other two. Like you could have fall and winter worth a flat amount of points, or maybe fall's worth a certain amount, winter's worth 25% more, and then boom, spring's worth literally double. Like you could just double it every time. It could be like 50%, 100%, 200% points. So that spring split as a whole is worth more than the other two splits combined. That way, teams who you know, can't keep it up till the end of the season will fall off, but teams who are good throughout the entire season can still be ranked. Or, you know, teams with similar spring split performances can be ranked based on their other splits. That's maybe the way to do it, because there is a difference. I mean, if you look at the point distribution, spring split is worth more than winter split, which is worth more than fall, but maybe the gap isn't big enough to allow teams to, you know, come together in the spring split, go crazy, and actually make Worlds. How about I improve the format of RLCS based on how this season has gone? Well, maybe hot take, but if it was me, I would make some pretty big changes. And the biggest change I would make is I would introduce a 1v1, an entire one. This is not going to come as a surprise to anybody, but I would introduce like a 1v1 division in RLCS that's totally separate from 3v3 on completely different weekends so that players can play both. And then have 1v1 and 3v3 both be part of different tournaments at every LAN. That's what I would do. Because the way that I see RL esports and the way that I see Rocket League esports like content, I guess I just said the same thing twice, but yeah, Rocket League, the way I see RL esports and Rocket League content is that variety is king. I think that variety is the way to go. So best way, in my opinion, to increase the variety without actually taking away from the current 3v3 system is leave the 3 split set up intact for 3v3, but just supplement it with other content. You know, it could be midweek, it could be on weeks where there isn't any 3v3. Just run official RLCS 1v1 events, because 1v1 historically has been the best, I think, complement to 3v3. What about 2v2? Well, I love 2v2 as well, but you know, starting both might be a bit much, so I would probably start off with just introducing 1v1, and then if it goes well, maybe introduce 2v2 as well. If that goes well, maybe introduce a crew battles tournament, maybe introduce a mid-season mayhem tournament where teams are switching teams, or like, you know, there's some kind of general manager setup. You get cross-region teams playing together, like what we did with SMAD. Like, there's so much potential, but I think the key is to constantly be innovating and to constantly be creating new ways for players to compete against each other. Because every single time that I see new content on the Rocket League Esports channel, it does well. Whether it's podcast content like First Touch, whether it's crew battle content like the Nissan Crew Battles, whether it's a freestyle contest, whether it's Battle of the Bulls 1v1, any of that content, it does well. Everything, every like different type of content does well. It's not like you throw, you know, a new game mode on there and nobody watches it. People watch it. People want to see that. They want to see variety. And any content creator will tell you that variety is king. If you just upload the same type of video over and over again and you never switch it up, you're never innovating, you're never like changing it in some way. You don't need to make massive drastic changes, but you do need to, like, you know, keep improving. And I think that's the best way to improve RLCS, to improve RL esports. Yeah, it might be a hot take. I don't know if everybody would want that. And the numbers don't lie. I mean, 1v1 is pretty popular. Pretty big on YouTube. Yeah, just imagine watching an RLCS day where you get to witness like a 1v1. Like, what if it was just like a single elimination 8-player 1v1 tournament played the same weekend as a 3v3 event like Landon, and at the end of every day you play a match from the 1v1 tournament. I think that'd be pretty fun. You know, end of day 3 is the semi-final, end of day 2 another semi-final, end of the, or maybe not end, but middle of the last day 1v1 final. For me, that would be peak. That'd be peak content. Also, you know, another thing that I really like, do you guys remember when during RLCS Season X they played all of the grand finals of the championships for every region on the main stream? They played the OCE finals on the main stream, and then I think it was after that they played the SAM finals on the main stream. Then after that they played the, no, it wasn't the other way around, like SAM followed by OCE followed by EU followed by NA. It was like a huge like 24-hour stream where I don't think the stream was live the entire time, but you know, it's coming back on, off with grand finals of every single region. How sick would it be if like this is just something I thought recently, like what if every region on like an RLCS weekend, like right now the way RLCS works, North America, OCE, APAC North, no, APAC South, isn't it? OCE, APAC South, Middle East and North America are all on the same day. I think that's what it is. And then the other one is APAC North, EU, South America, SSA. Or something like that. Basically, there's 4 regions on the same day, or the same weekend. Now, what if you played the entire regional, like, up to the grand final, or maybe up to the semi-finals, on the first 2 days, like the Friday, Saturday, and then on the Sunday of every weekend, you just go from region to region on the main channel. It's like OCE on the main channel for semis and finals, APAC South on the main channel, semis and finals, you know, 2 semi-finals and a final. Middle East on the main channel, 2 semi-finals and a final. North America on the main channel. It could be English casters all the time, obviously, because it's a Rocket League English channel. But that for me would be like really good, a good way to both have variety on the main channel, and also to have, what do you call it? More support for the other regions.